Someone's going to go for two and get it at some point.
It's 1:42 in the morning.
Yeah, that's all right. Number one. Shocker. Iron.
Man, give me the Trojans.
There we go. Men to Overtime, presented by Perfection One. My name is John Bruce, along with Shayne Combs, welcoming you in on a snowy Monday morning for us. Heck of a drive into downtown Chillicothe. We're in episode 79 of the Southern Ohio Sports Authority's premier podcast. I said it different that time. Yeah, it was different. I got to script it at some point. At some point, I'll have it down. But yeah, episode 79. This will be the last episode of the fall for us. We're going to kind of round up some things. Make sure, if you don't know, sosaohio.com, you can find all the articles and everything. If you're watching this, it's the only way to see it. I guess you could hear it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but if you're watching this, make sure you give us a subscription so you can see all the videos and game live streams, videos. Bad Company had a really good episode this past week as well. So we do a lot of different things around here, and follow us on our socials, and that way you can find it over the next couple of weeks while we take a slight break from overtime. We still got a lot of teams in the playoffs, which we're going to talk a good bit about today.
Yeah, you say break, but when you look at the calendar, it won't be long before we're calling our first basketball game.
Yeah. So just looking at that, it is just over 2 weeks. Yeah, so just over 2 weeks. We'll have a bevy of basketball to start the season, and we'll have a lot, and we appreciate our sponsors for taking care of us on all of that stuff, and also, of course, Perfection One for making this possible as well. We'll have one last collision of the week for the season. Then we might have to figure out a way to reconvene that for basketball season, because we'll have 2 to 3 streams every week, and then we'll see a lot of other basketball as well. So we'll probably have some other way to celebrate Perfection One and maybe our play of the week as well.
Well, certainly. I mean, if we're going to still be on the air 1 or 2 more weeks, we'll see if we can't work that into there. Even though you and I won't be on here, maybe we can still work that in somehow to make sure that we're highlighting some kids and then highlighting our sponsors.
Yeah, so we are still working, as you can see on the ticker below, we're working on where our live stream is going to be for this Friday, working with some schools on that, trying to find a location. We have several schools still in the playoffs, not a whole lot at home. I believe it's 2 at home.
Right.
And one of them does an outstanding job of their own stuff. So you won't see us live streaming from Wheelersburg, but man, watch the Wheelersburg Sports Network if you're ever interested in their games, especially at home. So speaking of streaming and whatnot, I thought one of the things I noticed on Friday, maybe it comes down to cost as well. The crowds were not, and now also the weather wasn't great. So that could have something to do with it, especially with the weather we've had on Fridays this year. You mentioned that on Friday the other day of like we haven't had rain. We hadn't had a bad Friday yet. So do you think maybe that could have been part of the reason why the crowd sizes weren't as big on Friday? Because there's so many different ways to look at it, but is that something that you noticed on Friday as well?
Look, cost-wise is a fair question. I think in anything in today's time, when you put a dollar amount on something and all of a sudden a family of 3, 4, 5 tries to take a Friday night and go and drive there, buy tickets, get in, go to the concession stand, do all those things, I'm not going to be naive and say that's not a factor. I do think some of the changing of format and some different things with the playoffs, I think people are still adjusting to in terms of what means what and so forth. Football's always had a monopoly on less is more. So what I mean by that is it doesn't matter if you're a really good football program or a really low level football program. ADs will tell you all over the state that their football gate drives the athletic funding bus. And so John, tell me if you follow me here. I think when all through time with football, you only get, say, 4 or 5, maybe 6 home games in a year, and then, you know, even in the college level now, they have to have more games, more playoff spots. NFL, the one more game had been added here
Mhm.
recently, and then now we're going to throw a little extra Monday night football game there. We're going to get a little extra Thursday night or whatever. And the more you do that, it may that may feel different to people in terms of when they pick and choose or
Mhm.
go to different things. I don't know the answer to that. These are just things I'm throwing out there. But certainly cost, week in, week out, I think that has to be a factor. And then because of some of the different distance of trips for
Mhm.
away, I don't know how much I question the home side in a lot of
Yeah.
those, maybe a little bit more the visitor side. But again, as you say, some of those trips are getting a little bit longer. And people just have a lot more going on now. So that's an ongoing question. It's an interesting question. I feel like a lot of attendance has been down
Mhm.
throughout regular season as well. So I don't know if it's just all of a sudden a playoff thing. So to put the price of ticket on just that, it's fair. I don't know if that's the only reason why. I think attendance overall at high school sporting events has been down a little bit.
Mhm. Well, and then price going up at every level of game also probably,
Sure.
doesn't help that as well. So could streaming have an impact on it? Because now you can, not always, not some schools every game is streamed, but not always, but sometimes you can watch the game without actually going.
I hear that, and again, I think it's a fair debate topic.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm buying it, and
Mhm.
the reason I say that is I don't know how many people. It's not just that the thousands of people that turn on a stream and watch it. And again, by the way, thank you for doing
Yes.
that. But like, I don't know if those people are doing that instead of going to the game.
Mhm.
Like, what I mean by that is that the stream wasn't there. There's a lot of people throughout the entire area be like, "Oh, I'd like to see that game, but I'm not driving over there and doing that."
Mhm.
It kind of goes back. I'm not driving over there, paying that, doing that,
Yeah.
or I would rather just go do this on a Friday night or whatever. To go to the game, you're taking out a 5 6 hour window in your whole evening. Whereas to stream it, you might just have a couple hours where you're looking back and forth at something and following a
Mhm.
game. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know how many people like I had some incredible messages on the air the other night from some really good friends from high school
Mhm.
down in Florida, down in Kentucky. We had a grandparent the other day in volleyball. We got word and we gave a shout out to Nebraska. How
Mhm.
cool is that? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it. So they're not driving from Nebraska to see the
Mhm.
game, but because the stream's on, they'll
Yeah, they
follow the
can
game.
watch.
So my point is, I don't know how many people that are watching that stream are doing it instead of going to the game. If the
Mhm.
stream wasn't there, they just wouldn't watch the game.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, completely, and that's kind of I was hoping you're gonna go that way because, it's available, but at the same time, I know me and you, if if there's a game, we're probably going to the game. And yeah, we can watch it back later, but it is nice to have that for the people that cannot make it, or people that are going to another game and be like, "Oh, I can check in." Like I was probably watching. I mean, I'm at one game. I probably tuned into. I think it was 3 different streams that night. I mean,
How many? What would you say the percentage? Because the last point I was going to make, I always offend people when I say it, but something I feel strongly about, so I'll say it anyway. The How many people, when you turn on a stream, do you think have a specific rooting interest for one of the two teams?
not great, not that much because there's
Maybe a
uh,
third this team, third this team, third neutral. I
yeah.
don't know. I'm
Well,
just saying, like,
if you look back through our numbers of the streams, there's a couple programs that spike it a little bit, and I don't know if it's necessarily because people want to watch them or if they want to watch them possibly lose, but it's you know for the most part, our numbers are pretty consistent. Now, tournament playoffs, they spike. And I think that's because there's less out there and there's more interest in like when you get to the regional volleyball, we had our biggest live stream ever and
yeah.
it featured our biggest volleyball live stream ever. And then we just had our biggest football live stream ever. Both of those featured teams an opponent from outside the area that aren't even in our technical
Wow.
coverage area. Out of our 68 schools that we cover, there 2 of them are not in there. So, now our biggest ever was you and Dewey down there with Chesapeake and Medford last year, where those are 2 area schools. So maybe I don't know. It's just I think it's not a whole lot of rooting interest. I think people just have an interest in it. Now, going to that Unioto Columbus East game, the 500 people that have watched it in the last 2 days, since it's been posted and the game's been over, I mean, we're doing this early on a Monday, so that's starting early on Saturday until now. I'm gonna say those people probably had a rooting interest in it.
Well, it could be
But
watch you could have people watching it back, you
yeah,
could have for all we know, you have New Lex people watching it because they
right.
don't play them next or
Mhm.
whatever. There could be a lot of different
Yeah.
reasons why. Here's the point I've made before, and I've had some mixed bag feedback. That's something that I'm not trying to be negative, I'm just trying to be honest. I have said in the last 20 years, I've watched it from my playing days and then when I first started coaching, and during that little 10-year period, and then over
Mhm.
the last 20 years, I just finished about a 30-year coaching career. And I can honestly tell you, it simply does not mean the same thing to bleed black and gold, the red and white, the
Mhm.
blue and blue, whatever your school colors are. It doesn't mean the same to be a panther or a falcon or a tiger or whatever fill in the mascot. It just doesn't.
Mhm.
And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because we have more things to do. I don't know if we have more open enrollment, more movement across. Because I think a lot of times we think of transferring and movements for sports. When you get into administration, you start to realize we got people moving all over the
Yeah.
place, like in second grade, fifth grade.
Mhm.
I deal with at a school, even the smallest Paint Valley, I deal with a large percentage of kids are at their third school when they're in the
Mhm.
sixth grade. So you're, it doesn't mean as much to be locked into that community. Like you and I were talking the other day, it's so cool to see. We still have that one generation hanging on where you see some of these lifers, man. They're a lifer,
Mhm.
Adina Warrior. They're a lifer, Medford Falcon. They're a
Mhm.
lifer. What I mean? Like
Mhm.
it's just that's who they are. I worry that that becomes less and less too in terms of their connection to a school, their connection to, "Hey, I graduated from there." I worry about that. I think that is, going back to our NIL talk and things like
Mhm.
that. Those are the types of things I worry about in the foundation of high school sports because that slowly but surely plays a role in this type of thing you're
Mhm.
talking about here too, in terms of the passion of a fan
Mhm.
and going to the game and cheering on your team.
Yeah. So, now I know you went up to the state volleyball
Mhm.
this weekend. Did you notice it in some of those places? So, like, you mentioned a St. Henry coming from the MAC, who
Incredible crowd.
yeah.
Incredible crowd.
Is it different there?
Yeah, that's a fair point, and
Be
I'm not gonna sit here and
Mm,
say I
well,
know.
my what, someone actually brought this up. You almost never see anything good on message boards, but on a message board about the Mac and, like, their numbers and the competitive balance, so with the transferring, are very low, and it just feels like those people, they stay in their community. If they move, it's because they're moving, and it's not because they're unhappy with something at one place. So is it still possible to have that? Because I know in our area, we don't have a great deal of that super school pride. Now it's there. There's still people with it, but like you said, it's something that's not as prevalent as it was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but it's an awesome question. I do know that, we live in a unique area where our schools are so close
Yeah.
together. So the ability to move around and do some different things sometimes just happens because life happens.
Mhm.
It's not always sports thing, it's just life happens. But like it's some of these communities where you live out in a certain school district, that's where you're going because you couldn't financially afford to go anywhere else. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So that's an interesting. I go up there. Obviously, the private public school thing is a huge thing at that level. You see a lot of private school domination as you get to the higher levels of the. I think the seven divisions will at least help. spread that out and give the public school a little bit more of a chance in terms of the enrollment competitive balance. But I ended up seeing a little bit of both. You could see teams, and again, you get in those venues like the Nutter Center, and you don't appreciate how many people are there
Mhm.
sometimes anyway, because again, it's so big. Um, that that plays a role as well. But yeah, you end up seeing. I mean, you got kids playing for a state championship. You think if they're ever going to come out and watch the kids play, it'd be at that point.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
and no, for the most part, I thought the schools that I watched while I was up there supported their kids pretty well.
Mhm.
Because you always take into like a Division 7 versus a Division 3. It was
Right.
a lot more in the community and a lot more kids
Mhm.
involved and so forth.
Yeah. So, let's move on to talk about some of the state stuff. State semifinal sites. So, with it being more divisions now, do you think there's like a big impact for crowd size and overall feel of the moment for it to be different at a different place than the state finals? Because like when you grew up, when your brother played in the state semis and state finals, it was at St. John Arena.
Mhm.
Now, they're at UD Arena, which is a great arena for we'll go
Sure.
to basketball. But the semifinals, like uh Minford last year played over in St. Clairsville. It was a beautiful place, but it was like, they had a great crowd, but what, like, why? Why wouldn't it have been towards Dayton? Now I know they adjusted that for this year, but like I'll use Wheelersburg and Worthington Christian the other day. They played at Logan once again, beautiful facility. There's no programs. There's nothing in particular other than on the scoreboard it said, welcome to the Division 4 state semifinals. There's just there's just not much because you don't know the sites ahead of time anyway. So it's not like the sites can, you know, I know Zane Trace was told that they may have a semifinal. Well, if Zane Trace goes all out to get prepped for it and then they don't get it, are they going to go all out the next
All
time?
out the next time.
So what do you think the impact of not having them at the same places is?
Well, I think the impact comes from the 7 divisions. I
Mhm,
mean, all of a sudden now the long time format that they've been able to use, they simply can't fit that many semifinal and finals into that number of
mhm,
days. I like for the volleyball example, forever it used to fit just nicely in Thursday, Friday with state championships on the Saturday.
mhm,
Now they're even using Sunday, and that opens up a whole other can of
yeah,
worms and different things. And so I thought a lot about this on the way home from Wright State the other day, and I just wonder as times change, if the state won't be able to change with it, and maybe obviously have to split their coverage to different venues,
mhm,
but maybe, as you said, find a way to still make a great tradition of highlighting the entire Final Four weekend. Because making the Final Four is a big deal.
mhm,
So the state semifinal, it cannot afford to just be something you throw off to the side, or where's that at, or where's it going
right,
here? You want it to be like, hey, we've made, like, think about it. We always talk about, the, you know, miles to the combo, miles to the
mhm,
shot, miles to Huntington Park, miles to, you know, a paint stadium versus this venue, Beaver Stadium. Oh,
mm,
each sport you kind of associate where your program's trying to
mhm,
get. So I agree with you in terms of tradition. Could they possibly split the divisions 1, 2, 3, and then maybe a 4, 5, 6, 7, and put them into different
mhm.
venues, but then have it locked into those particular things.
Yeah, like it.
They and then that way you still would have that tradition, and you would still be able to go back to an older format to where they could go. So
Mhm,
that would be an idea from where I sit, because we have plenty of really nice venues. I think it's just somewhere getting them to buy into. I had someone ask the other day, well, could Ohio State get it back and utilize, they have like 3 different volleyball facilities
mhm,
they can use for it. That's an idea, but again, you don't know what the
right,
availability is, you don't know what the money is. But there's something that could be done there for sure in terms of, you know, Wright State could still host these divisions. Maybe Dayton could host
right.
another one. You know, if you don't think that's central enough, you could go up north a little bit more and you could have, but you could certainly understand that these 4 divisions are still going to be here at Wright State.
Mm.
These 3 divisions are gonna be here, and I think you could still get a little bit of that older format back.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at soccer, for instance, and I just don't know why you get to the later point in the year and the games are completely different than how you play them throughout the year. So you're playing like every other day for a good bit of the year, and then you get to the tournament and it's like you're playing like every fourth day. Well, if you shorten that up and you find locations, you could still do it. Now, if you want the final to be at historic Crew Stadium,
Mhm.
that's great. But put the semifinals somewhere. And why not play, if it's I'll use Worthington Christian and Wheelersburg. Why not play them at 5, and then the next semifinal at 7:30? Your crowd is so much bigger if you can put that in. You put it all towards Columbus because that's where you're trying to get to anyway, and you could easily, then you're cutting down on the amount of places you need for the semifinal, and I just feel like that would help soccer because, like, soccer crowds are different. Now, that crowd was really good the other night, but you partially couldn't tell because of just how gigantic Logan is. So,
Mhm.
you're also having these huge bleachers with not as big a crowds for soccer, but then when you have your biggest crowd, it you don't notice it as much because it's so spread out amongst those huge bleachers.
And we've talked about that in other sports too. You know, a lot of times when you get in these big venues, it's tough to pack them, and it does make for some other logistics. To me, I would think that if you are wanting somewhat of the old format, the willingness to split the division, say, this site will host the 4, 5, 6, 7,
Mhm,
and you could just run your format the same way you used to with 4 divisions.
mhm.
Then go to another site and
Yeah,
do the same thing, and then you could, in today's social media, you could still highlight some different things because um, I know at that level, getting some of the strength or some of the different things isn't the easiest thing to do. So I know that there's some people that were disappointed that some of people like SOSA
yeah,
couldn't go and cover some of those different things at the state level.
yeah, and then, this is my last thing. I saw a state championship winning goal from yesterday. It and the streaming was so, like, bouncing around. Like, you could you could see the play, but it was so not crisp. So they gotta figure that part out too, because there's no reason why you can't have high level internet at
Mhm.
those types of places, especially when if everything is gonna be centralized, some people can't make those long trips, so
Well, especially
yeah.
if you're going to have a monopoly on it. You know
Yes.
what I mean? So, like, again, whatever. I understand the business side of it, but if you are going to have a monopoly on it, the expectation is for you to produce a good
Yeah,
quality. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
fair.
I agree with that completely. So, that's something we can maybe talk about, especially once we get to basketball around that time. We'll see how things change. I know basketball is going to be a little bit different this year, which is good. Going back a little more, I think it's going to be Wright State and Dayton are going to be the two sites, with Dayton being ultimately the finals. Which I do feel like if you have like the one site that's going to be the finals, I think that's good. But we'll kind of
I
see.
think the argument there is you still have to stretch it out over 2 days,
Yes.
most likely. So some people look at it as, like my wife and I the other day, we went up and we were able to see, we had 4 options, which is a lot of volleyball. But
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, unfortunately, we weren't up there on the day that, like, New Lex made the final.
Mhm.
We'd had to go back up the next
Yeah.
day. You see what I'm saying? That type of thing.
Yeah. So, um, it's definitely something that I think they're working with and doing a pretty good job of at least adjusting
Mm.
on that. So, more divisions equal more things to figure out. So,
Well, but the 7 divisions is a
yes.
positive thing, so I'm willing to give them some leadway on figuring it out because the 7 divisions, it
Y-
does help in today's enrollment for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. So now let's jump over. I mean, we're going to talk soccer and volleyball a little bit to end the episode, but our big thing today is going to be football. So we had week 12, and we were going to get into 3 of the games, and then we will also, go a little bit further um, into next week as well. So, uh, real quick, just in week 12, Wheelersburg, Nelsonville-York, Sims Valley, Waterford, all very dominant in wins to move on to week 13.
Well, and again, it shows the depth of football and how it's growing in our area. Teams that it's not just a regular season thing; it's starting to compete into week 11, week 12, now into week 13, and I think that those programs you're reading off there have been programs that we've been talking about on overtime quite a bit. So it doesn't surprise me that those teams are still playing.
Yeah, and they all get home games, and they all look very good at home in those games. So, really, the local teams. Let me look real quick. I believe it may have been 6-1. Um, yeah, 6-1. Teams that got a bye were 6-1 local this week. So shout out to the all 6 of those teams to get the wins. We'll talk about the loss in a few minutes on that. But yeah, Wheelersburg will get another home game this week. Waterford will get another home game where Nelsonville, Sims Valley, Jackson, Unioto will all have to go on the road, but I'm sure if you say, "Hey, you got to go on the road in week 13," those programs will be like, "Yeah, sign me up for it."
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
we'll go get ready. Um, but we'll talk a little bit more about all of those coming up for their next week game. But maybe the game of the week in the area: Jackson 24, Miami Trace 21. If you haven't gone to it, sosohio.com. Derek Webb had a really good article about the game. He wasn't able to get interviews after because there was an episode afterwards that with Coach Hall. It sounds like he's doing a lot better right now. So looking forward to seeing him back on the sidelines as soon as possible. But a great win for Jackson. Bodie Wolford hits Ryan Simons, 16-yard touchdown in the final minute. You can see that on all of our socials as well. So, I mean, it was like 70,000 views on Friday night, pretty much as soon as it went up. Not a lot of people got to see it outside of who were in the stadium. So it was really cool for Derek to get that up very quickly. But Simons was just outstanding. He's been outstanding throughout the year. So I think a lot of the talk for FAC Player of the Year was between Julian Baker and Carte Ligon, Chillicothe, which it should have been. But I feel like kind of lost in that was Ryan Simons for what all he does. Now, I'm not saying he should have got it over either of them, but the senior on the league champion was outstanding all throughout the year. Switch positions, goes from being a wide receiver all through high school to running back this year, and has really taken control for the Ironman. He had 17 rushes, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns, also that receiving touchdown. When they need a play, they just find a way to give him the ball. Oh, and then he had an interception as well. So pretty decent day for him. Buddy Wolford threw for the touchdown. Thatcher Brown also had a 40-yard field goal to end the first half. And, like, that's just such a huge play. I mean, a
Huge weapon.
24-21 game.
Yeah, huge weapon.
Yeah, so then you don't even have to worry about the PAT after. Like, if you're down 7, then you got a decision to make. Minute to go. Do you go for the win at home, or do you go for overtime? But either way, you still got to execute that. But Thatcher Brown hits that field goal in the half. You don't have to worry about it as much.
Yeah, we had this matchup back in what was it, week
Yeah,
9, on our stream. Carson and I had the privilege of calling that game together, and it was an unbelievable game. And preparing for that game that week and watching these two teams throughout the year, and then watching them head to head, it was such a back and forth. It was such an even matchup. And so when I ended up seeing the seeding come out, we were talking about that this was likely to take place
yeah,
in week 12. You just understood that it was going to be another all the way down to the fourth quarter. And we're getting updates there. And I think, well, Miami tracing up 14-10
yeah.
going in the fourth. And didn't surprise you at all because you felt like it was a coin flip game. I said throughout the week I'd give Jackson a little bit of the edge playing at home, and it comes down to the end. You're talking about the FAC Player of the Year. It's a throw 'em in a hat, and draw 'em out.
Yeah.
I mean, like Julian Baker. I'm looking at our sheet here. 29 rushes, 178, and 2 touchdowns. He was at bat eighth. I
Exactly.
mean, so and he was the one that broke the I think it was a 65-yarder
Yep.
to put him back on top in the fourth quarter, or we'd be sitting here talking about that as the game winner.
Exactly.
So like it's just a heavyweight slugfest back and forth. We had the Chillicothe Miami Trace game, the Miami Trace Jackson game, and now following this game. It's just you have some great teams there. You have Division I football college talent on the field all over. And at the end of the night, you had two big time playmakers hook up to make a big play. And I'm sure if you ask them and ask coaches, there would be a lot of different things that went into that play, from pass protections, timing, to all sorts of different things. And those two guys with the season on the line make a play, and that was exciting. You're right. That video was a really cool video that Derek had out, and look, hats off to Miami Trace as well. What an incredible year. That senior group has done a lot of winning, and they still have some kids coming back that are obviously really good. And then Jackson plays on.
Yep. So Jackson moves on. An outstanding season for Miami Trace. Cooper Enix also had a score in the game, and then you have Adam Guthrie that's going to move on to play at the next level as well. So I mean, you had some outstanding players. 10 wins for Miami Trace on the season. Outstanding year for the Panthers, and as you said, a lot of guys coming back. So a lot to look forward to for them. I would say that they are going to be in the mix for an FAC crown next year. Jackson loses a lot, but I mean, it's still an outstanding program. Chillicothe has a whole lot coming back as well. And then kind of looking what Courthouse did throughout the year will make them interesting.
They have some young skill kids at Courthouse there that are going to start to get into their upperclassmen years now.
Yeah, so it should be a outstanding season once again in the FAC. They had 5 teams make the playoffs this year, with 3 now getting wins, and then you have, I mean, 2 of the best returners coming back, you know, RJ Ligon and Sam Pfeiffer from Washington Courthouse, only sophomores, and then Julian Baker outstanding as well from Miami Trace. And it's just, you got the Bernard kid at Miami Trace as well, Connor Rutherford from Chillicothe. You got some great linemen. Quarterback from McLean has been outstanding.
Well, I was
So,
going to say the McLean group, knowing them pretty well, they've been high on this freshman sophomore class for a long time, coming up to junior high. So they're getting ready to kind of bring what they think some of their better classes up to the upperclassmen levels as well.
Yeah, should be a really exciting time in the FAC. And then, as we said, Jackson will move on to week 13. So, a game where one of our local teams did fall. Columbus Academy 35, Zane Trace 23. Couple it felt like a little bit of just a flip from the week before, where Zane Trace was making not mistakes necessarily, but it was the special teams for Columbus Academy that made a big difference. 2 block punts in that game. They also had an interception. It was just overall, it was just Zane Trace got a little bit behind the 8 ball, but man, they battled throughout and gave themselves a chance late in the game.
They did, and it was a game going in that we felt like they might be a slight underdog, but we felt like they could really compete. I felt like that ended up being the truth. I mean, as you said, the worst thing that can possibly happen in those games is to have early mistakes, or mistakes that lead to points, and it kind of gets Zane Trace um, on the uphill climb, trying to play from behind. And again, I thought they athletically did some things to settle in and come back. They got back in it a little bit, but again, when you're on the road and you're playing that caliber of opponent, it's so tough to get behind and spot them those types of points and go. But yeah, they more than proved throughout the night that they weren't in over their head in
Yeah.
terms of moving the football, in terms of getting the ball in the end zone and doing some things. Isn't it ironic, though, the way you said that? The special teams kind of ended up biting them a little bit, where all year long it seems like they block a kick a week. It
Yeah.
feels
Yeah,
like, and then it was that turn. The tables were turned on them, and it ended up really putting them behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, you see that a lot of times at different levels as well, of like what one team does really well,
Yes.
another team's able to take advantage of
Yeah.
as well. So one of the big things in that is when you're down, you're not able to stick to the running game as much. But I mean, Gunnar McCullough, 10 for 19, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns, and you still had Bryce Johnson 19 carries, 148 yards, and a score on the day. He finishes his junior year with 1,578 yards, 22 touchdowns. So
Wow.
just outstanding. Once again, we just said his junior year. So think about some of those guys coming back. So we mentioned Julian Baker, Carte Ligon, and then Bryce Johnson needs to be mentioned as one of these elite players as well. He had nearly 80 tackles on the season, just an outstanding season for him. Also catching touchdowns in the game were Lucas Euler and Jake Stoffer. So a 9-3 season for Zane Trace, finished second in the SEC. They get a Week 11 win, a dominating win. Get into Week 12. I would say overall a successful season.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, think about the teams they lost to. You're talking about some
Yeah.
really, really elite programs, and some teams that, well, two of them are still playing.
Mhm.
So yeah, absolutely, an outstanding season. You get a road playoff win, and you were all the way into the third quarter of that Unioto game, and probably felt like you left a couple things on the table. But yeah, you're right. I mean, this is a team that. Week in, week out, when you turn the film on, they pass the eye test. They're
Mhm.
really good in the trenches. That's why I think they'll be right back in the mix next year
Yeah.
again, is because up front they do a
Mhm.
job. And I think Johnson would be the first to tell you, "Yeah, I got a lot of guys up there working real hard
Mhm.
for me." And then obviously he turns 3-yard
Mhm.
runs into, 8, 9, 10-yard runs because of his physicality. But yeah, I think this is a team that should be very proud of the year they've had, and I see no reason why the expectations still won't be high there at St. Trace next year.
Yeah, you're losing some really talented players. You lose a Gunnar McCullough, Lucas Euler, Jaden Higgins had a great season for them. Grady
He
Stewart made
did.
some big time plays as well. So you're gonna lose some really talented kids there. But you also have Blake Brower back, Hudson Williams back, Mason Hartley made some huge plays for them throughout the season. And then without mentioning, even Bryce Johnson, so they can if they can figure out something at the quarterback position, I think some good things happened in that Valley game with the JV kids at quarterback as well. So I mean, you're going to have a really good running game,
I was
and
gonna say the number one thing the young quarterback's gonna have is the ability to turn around and
yeah,
hand at the
yeah,
3.
yeah. So you've got some really positive things over in Kinnikinnick. Should be an outstanding season next year for Zane Trace as well, and in the future as well, as it's a program that is for a long time has been on moving in the right direction throughout. I mean, um, you know, when you have Coach Hall that I think he had like he coached 4 seasons. I don't think he lost a league game. And I mean, they've had some outstanding seasons throughout their tenure. Um, sometimes it's two or three up and then a couple down, but it's more up than down, and I feel like it's going to continue for a long time out there.
There no question about it. As you were saying that, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm just going off memory of, like, Unioto's obviously on an incredible run
Yeah.
here, but if you go back over the
Zane
7 or 8
Trace was good
years,
2010s.
Zane
Yeah.
Trace, well, but even Zane Trace now during this Unioto run, you're talking about coin flip games.
Yeah.
Well, we would be having a completely different discussion in SVC football.
Mhm.
And obviously Unioto's not going anywhere now, so that's going to continue. But make no mistake about it, the Zane Trace football program has been at that level throughout all of this, and I think will continue to be.
Yeah, as you said, they've been at this level for a long time and will likely continue. Um, Let me see. I think it's 2 league losses or 3 league losses in the last 3 years,
Yeah.
and then they won the league the year before, finished second by a game the year before. So in the last 5 seasons, Zay Trace has 4 SEC losses.
Right, and
Champion.
again, the point I'm making is in those losses, you're talking about coin flip games,
Yes.
really, really instant classic type of finishes, or at least got into the fourth quarter with the game still, up for grabs.
Well, now I'm going to go even more into that. So first loss was by 4. Then 13, but that was the game that had the interception
That's
as
what I mean.
with no
Yeah,
time
I'm not
left.
saying the final
Yeah.
score would show it, but I'm saying watch the game and then tell me it wasn't a good game into the,
Well,
deep into the
I'm
game.
saying the final score showed it too. So, I mean, but if you really even dig deeper into it, as you said, those games are even closer than what the final score said,
Yeah.
even with the final scores being fairly close. So, Yeah, outstanding season for Zane Trace, and looking forward to seeing them again next fall. So then our streaming game of the week, which was Unioto with their first win to go to week 13. They've never been in week 13. They won previously in 2020, and then now you win as the home team. They won as the home team then, but you win as the home team based off of the playoff points as opposed to the voting that they had that one year. A 21-12 win for Unioto over East. Just a really good team performance.
Yeah, I thought we nailed this in the pregame from the 3 points we were talking about. We talked about the mistakes and the turnovers. Early on, I thought East had a drive killed with a mistake down in the red zone, and then Uniota gives the interception away, gets the short
Mhm.
field that leads to the East touchdown. Remember Royster with the 49-yard touchdown on the 3rd and 15.
Yeah.
That was the second thing, the big play capability, the home run capability. So then you go to the locker room, but then that's where the third thing that we talked about started to sneak into the game, and that was the kicking game.
Mhm.
You know, East inability they didn't even line up to kick it. They
Yeah.
they went for the conversion. So think about where we're at there. It ends up in a 21-12 game. So they could have scored anywhere from 14 to 16
Mhm.
points. That game would have had a completely different feel in the fourth quarter. I think we all agree on
Yeah.
that because the ability for Unioto to get it out to 9 and get to 2 possessions really changed the way that game was played in the
Mhm.
second half. Um, and I thought the kicking game played a key role in that. Matthew 3 for 3 on the PATs. He had came in with like 23 touchbacks on the year. I would say I have to laugh when I say had another big one there.
Mhm.
I thought Uniota's coverage was really good
Yes.
in the punt game, and I thought the return game was going to be huge coming in. I thought Uniota really tackled well on special teams, and then give Unioto return, Harsha coming up and fielding the punt on the run and setting up that that
The
that
last
that,
touchdown,
that
yeah.
touchdown. So I thought Uniota special teams was really big in this one.
Yeah, that was ultimately the difference. Also, their defense was outstanding,
Oh,
especially in the
absolutely.
second half when East completely had abandoned the run. And then it was, they're throwing, and I thought David Long caused all kinds of issues for East, and he wasn't one of the ones getting the sacks. Luke Howard had 3 sacks on the night. Bryce Jarvis had a sack and a half. Uh, Jacob Renner had a sack. Daquan James had a sack.
Yeah, this front four are really
Yeah, they
good.
were unbelievable. And then you throw in like what Long was able to do, and then that's without. Yeah, and I know you mentioned Braden Harsha, but the 3 freshmen that Coach Hoops put out there, just the entire second half as DBs, and they didn't miss a beat at all. No points given up in the second half.
Yeah.
Harsha, Blake Braden, Lake and Lingoff, all with passes defensed in that second
Yeah.
half. I think we'd all tell you maybe they should have an interception or 2 in there,
Sure.
but you're making big plays defensively and cutting off the deep ball with those 3 freshmen, and that's not even mentioning what Levi Beam did throughout the game.
We'll give Strange
Yeah,
and Weingartner a lot of
yeah,
credit too, because you with young guys back there, you just give a little veteran presence and so forth. Obviously, Weingartner had the
yes,
big play at the very end, but yeah, I mean, up and down that defensive roster, I thought that their ability, the versatility of Judah as a coach,
yes,
they were able to bring him up and maybe help on some underneath stuff to give the young guys a little bit more of a cushion. There
mm,
was just a lot of little coaching strategies and a lot of versatility of kids that really jumped out at me. But I did want to highlight
yeah,
David. I thought he played an incredible football game. I mean, you're talking about. I love that on Braden's interview. Cody Brady, he was
yeah,
talking about that. He gave a shout out there, not
yeah,
just to his offensive line, but if you watch a lot of those runs, the physicality of just going up through there. So what was it, 38 carries?
yeah,
Just about every one of them had number 10,
mm,
right up there in the hole, just boom, boom,
yeah,
knock. And then he goes on the defensive side and he's blitzing and getting in the backfield, and then he's punting and he's just a really good football
yeah.
player. I thought he played a really good game the
Yeah,
other night.
that was a really good all around game for Long, as you mentioned. He had a couple of catches to go along with the good punt or the nice punting. he made the heady play late on the high snap to just not try to do anything with it, just
Yes.
kill it.
Which
Um,
that was a whole different time and score debacle there, but it all worked out. Let me ask you this there on the run game. I thought that was probably my biggest surprise was Columbus East, not only were they not stubborn with the run game, it was almost like they decided on film coming into the game that they didn't think they could
right.
run it. Because in watching them throughout the year, coming in, I thought their run game, not necessarily right at Unioto, but maybe just off tackle a little bit or some different
Mhm.
stretch type things would be a big factor. And they never really did go to it. Where to
Yeah.
Unioto's credit, it wasn't like they were going out averaging 15 yards a pop, but they were very stubborn with the
Yeah.
run game. And I give Braden a lot of credit because his ability to, when it wasn't there, to still get a 1 or 2 yard gain and keep stay ahead of
Yeah.
the sticks a little bit. I thought that was a really interesting dynamic on the two sides.
Yeah, out of the 38 carries, he had 1 for loss.
Yeah,
Now
that's huge.
he had a couple that were for 0, but it was like almost everything was
Yeah. I
at
see
least
way too
yeah,
many high school running backs put their team in 2nd and 14 when it could have been 2nd and 10.
yeah. So that I agree was a huge difference, and I think up front, both sides. And also, I do think Union's depth had a big part of that because where you're playing like a Jacob Renner, Luke Howard, Daquan James one way. Those guys are jumping in every once in a while offensively, especially the other night whenever they went in that, big formation.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're not having to play every play where like Landon Caruth, who's an all district offensive lineman,
Good player.
just has to play offensive line.
Yeah.
Donzel Newland, one way. I mean, when you've got guys like that, Glenn Stotrich got out and made
He
some,
does an outstanding
yeah,
job pulling around the edge
yeah.
on their bread and butter play. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, then,
he did a good job.
Dylan Stanley is another one, and that's so we just mentioned 4 different.
Jarvis.
Yeah, and Bryce Jarvis. Bryce Jarvis is the only guy that's going both ways on in the trenches for them, and I think that made a big difference late because it
He strikes me as the type of guy who went to Joy standing on the sideline every day.
yeah.
He seems to have a motor that just turns on come
Yeah,
7 o'clock on Friday. It's just like he was still jacked up in the interview
yeah.
after the game. So
So, I do think that made a big difference in that one. They were outstanding because they like you said, something in the film, East was just like, "we're not running."
it really
Yeah,
surprised me. It really did.
yeah. Now, credit to the Union's coaches as well. It looked like that in the first half, they kinda like, with Zickafoot, Judah was just kind of they didn't have a place for him. There's a couple times where they didn't seem like they knew where they wanted him in the zone, and then the second half, they had him coming up and helping early and then dropping, and then that just made such
Yeah,
a
I
big
made a
difference.
comment on the air that there were alignments and formations where it looked like Unioto was outnumbered and East was having trouble reading on the pre-snap, and then
Mhm.
that was a nice adjustment in the second half.
Yeah, and then, Isaac Coy had the iffy interception late in the first half, but man, I thought he did a good job in that second half of just kind of controlling things, and then knowing, um, that Levi Bean was gonna come down with the ball wherever he put
Yeah,
it, so
Bean made a really, really big catch just to kind of flip the field, flip the momentum there late third quarter,
mhm,
maybe because you just felt like if this game stays 14-12, that's a big ask to the Unioto defense.
mhm,
That play ended up flipping field position just a little bit and eventually led to an opportunity for Unioto to get that touchdown on the board to get two possession.
yeah, and then, if you haven't if you didn't see the game and you haven't noticed, there's one player we haven't really mentioned, which we're gonna talk about for a good bit here in a second. This week's Perfection One collision of the game for a big hit throughout. Usually from a stream game is going to go to Uniota's Jackson Zekafus. He actually had a couple of really big hits in
Mhm.
this one, but this one is going to be his big hit as a gunner in punt coverage in the Sherman's 21-12 win over East. First time for the Tanks in the regional semifinal in school history. He had a big part of that. Had a big interception late in the first half as well. So, um, that's perfection one. You can find Perfection One in Pickaway, Pike, and Ross counties, and then you can see why they're highly recommended. But going to Jackson Circleville, he makes a big play at the end of the first half, gets bottled up. I thought it was I don't even know if there was a whistle, a late whistle, and it was just kind of the East kids are just playing.
Yeah,
You play through the whistle, nothing malicious about it, but he goes down with an
you
injury
you made the point. I don't know if the officials were trying to get to the half
because
and
there
it
was
was a
two
couple
seconds left
seconds or
after. Yeah,
whatever, but yeah, that was tough. But I said this about Jackson the other night. I'll say it again here on overtime for people that didn't that hear us. He's a young man where he's okay. He's not necessarily the best player, you know what I mean? But he's certainly an all league caliber player, all district
yeah,
caliber player in all the sports.
yeah.
But I think every single program would tell you that he's kind of the engine that makes them go.
Mhm.
Like I said before, in baseball, he's in the middle of everything.
Yep.
Like whenever it was time for Unioto to go, he was in the middle of all of it, causing chaos. In basketball, he is absolutely their engine.
Mhm.
I mean, he's just relentless on the defensive side and his ability just to wreck the entire game for the
Mhm.
opponent. And then football, he's kind of, you know, on offense, on defense, on special teams. He's
Mhm.
just in the middle of all of it. So when he went down, I'm sure that was an emotional halftime for that
Mhm.
group in terms of the way they wanted to regroup and go to work here. You said the young kids, there were some rookies that really stepped up in the secondary there. But at that moment, I give a lot of credit to the upperclassmen
Mhm.
for bringing everybody together and knowing what they had to do. And I thought they'd really come out on that opening drive of the second half and announced that, okay, we're not going anywhere. We're
Yeah.
here. Let's go. And I thought that was big.
Yeah, and I thought that was I mean, if you're gonna have the injury, right before the half was probably the best time to have it because
Yeah.
that gave them the time to regroup
Just
and
regroup, know what they
yeah,
wanted to do. Yeah.
and didn't have to try to figure it out to end the half without him because you just take the knee and then you go
Right.
in. It's gonna be tough for them moving forward because of all the different things he does, but
Sure.
man, we want to give him a shot. First off, it was a huge hit. Now maybe the Levi beat hit on being down near the goal line may have been bigger,
Hey, to his
but
credit,
he
he
got
he
right back
got right
up.
back up and let's play. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But that was a big hit too.
yeah. So it's
And I thought it was a really well played football game. I honestly both ways. I thought both teams played hard and it just came down to as it always does, just a couple plays here and there and give Unioto credit. I just thought their run game and their ability to make some of those plays was the difference.
and I will throw out one last thing. So Jackson Sickfoos was their holder. Bryce Derringer has to come in, gets 2 holds down. That's 2 extra points.
Yeah,
Could be a big thing late in the game. But that's the value of having the depth that they have is that, if Derringer's not your number 1 holder, he still held so much in the second half of games because, you're working different guys in. And so he just goes right in and just does his job.
yeah.
And, just one of those little things in special teams where some teams you lose your holder could make a big impact. It had no impact at all in the game because of what they do special teams wise.
Well, it made the difference of the 9-point
Yeah.
advantage instead of it being 7 or 8. I joked in backyard football, it'd have been 3 to 2, you know
Uh-huh.
what I mean? And, like, all the way down to the last snap, we just still had, hey, East is 1 play away, where that 9-point cushion,
Mhm.
I thought, ended up taking a ton of pressure off of Union.
Mhm. Yeah, I completely agree. Now, we do want to shout out some of the local schools, that did wrap their seasons up. Circleville, Fairfield Union, Portsmouth West, Rock Hill, Portsmouth, Washington Courthouse, and Eastern all end their seasons in Week 12. Something not a lot of teams get to do. Circleville, in particular, they go 8-4 on the season. Just an outstanding season for Coach Sherritt in his first year with Circleville. First time in a long time that they've had that type of success. First time ever winning a home playoff game as well. So an outstanding season for Circleville.
Yeah, no question about it. We talked about that throughout the year. This is just a foundation year. This is just the start. You
Mm.
go in there and Circleville has beautiful facilities. They have incredible athletes. You get those athletes out, you coach them up, and all of a sudden it starts to happen, and you see the belief start to take over. They had some huge wins down the stretch, and plenty to build on there in Circleville for sure.
Yeah, and then Coach Andy Clark and Fairfield Union, they go 7-5, get to the second round. First time with that many wins since 2006 for Fairfield Union.
Well, and again, football is spreading out now. We talked
Mm.
about it earlier on the negative sides of it. The positive sides are these very things. It's spreading out more opportunities, more room for growth, more room for new tradition,
Mhm.
and you're seeing it with like a Fairfield Union because even at that record, you're seeing opportunities to advance into the playoffs, and that gets some young kids excited. And we watched some of their scores throughout the year. They
Mhm.
went toe to toe with some really good
Yes.
teams.
Yes, outstanding schedule for them, had them prepped and, a little overwhelmed on Friday, but I mean, that happens from time to time. So West, finished 6 and 6 to get to the second round of the playoffs, their 3rd time in the last 4 years with a playoff win.
I'm always amazed at their ability to stick the nose in against some of these bigger opponents and still do what they do year in, year out. I have a lot of respect for that program and really that overall athletic program in terms of how they go about it in that conference. Um, we had them early in the year. We watched Hillsborough beat them in a really tight game, and but as the year went on, following them, they kind of found something in the pass game in that game,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden they became a little bit more of a balanced offense, and that's when I really started to think they were taking off.
Yeah, I agree completely. Rock Hill finishes 7 and 5. Season looked like it was going one way, kind of swung towards the end, but credit to them getting that playoff win for the second straight year.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, listen, sometimes scheduling can make this happen one way or
Mhm.
the other, and it's not that you're playing any better or any worse, it's who you're playing. Look, they got off to a great start. All the wins count in the computer
Mhm.
system if you get them in week 1 or week 10. To their credit, they had some incredible wins that really
Mhm.
locked them into place. They went through some hard times, but again, they found themselves late in the year and still very a successful season.
Yeah, 15 wins over the last 2 years for Rock Hill.
Absolutely.
They had not done that since uh, the 2005-2006 season. So, I
Wow.
mean,
Yeah.
a nice little run for Rock Hill, the Redmen. Once again, Coach Love does an outstanding job there. So, moving over to Portsmouth. Portsmouth had wins technically in 6 of the last 7 weeks. They finished the season with a loss to Barnesville, but man, pretty nice season for the Trojans as they get 8 wins on the year. They start off 2 and 3 and get to 8 wins.
Well, we had them on that special opening night. Remember the
Yeah.
Thursday night, and obviously Unioto is really good, but even beyond who they were playing, they just looked like a young football team was just trying to find themselves. Remember, they had trouble in formation, they had
Mm.
trouble snapping the ball, they had trouble in some of their alignment. And then what amazed me was how quick they got it
Yeah.
fixed as you followed some of their scores over the next couple of weeks. And that's just a credit to kids, that's credit to coaching, that's credit to staying with it.
Mhm.
And man, by I felt by week 7, week 8, week 9, that ended up being a really good football team.
Yeah.
So congratulations to them just sticking with it and continuing to stay the course.
Yeah, 5th straight year with a playoff win for Portsmouth, so a nice work there, for that program. And then another program that had a nice turnaround season after a couple of iffy ones was Washington Courthouse as they go down, lose to Indian Hill, one of the better teams in Division 4, but you get the win over Granville and you get a really nice growth year from Sandpiper.
Yeah, I had a chance to see Courthouse in person last year, only on film this year.
Mhm.
But I can tell you that they have a couple young, skilled kids that are going to be coming into the second half of their career now, and I'm telling you, they can really play. So watch out for that group next year as they look to take even another step forward.
And then speaking of steps forward, a program that pretty much since they came around in 2015 has been almost nothing but steps forward, especially over the last 4 years, Eastern Pike.
Eastern Pike is a fascinating athletic department to me because as someone that's been in a small school for 25, 30 years, there for a while when the SOC was trying to figure out who they wanted to be, Eastern Pike was about ready to be on the wrong end of it. And some of that might have been due to their own leadership, from
Mhm.
what I understand. Now, what's happened is they have found their path and they have found their home, and they have put their kids in the absolute perfect spot in terms of growth and competitive balance and so forth. And as a result, they've had some programs really take off, and the football team has led that charge. They have some incredible skill talent. but what gets overlooked way too much is how good they are in the trenches.
Yes.
Really, really good football team. Another great year. And again, I like the vision and the overall leadership they have in that athletic department right now.
Yeah, and if you pull up their page on Fantastic 50, this was their best season as far as the computers go. The computers really like them this year, getting better and better every year. 32 straight wins in the regular season. They've won 4 playoff games over the last couple of seasons. Obviously, uh, Friday night was rough, but I mean, now those kids know what it takes to even go against the middle of the MAC.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
sure.
they're hoping to take on the top of it, but now you gotta get to the middle first, and I'm sure they saw some things in that, like, that they really liked, and obviously it went the wrong way for them. But, an outstanding program. Coach Tomlinson and his group, have done an outstanding job over the last few years
No
for
question.
Eastern Pike. So, congratulations to those teams on getting to week 12. And hopefully next year, each one of those takes another step further as well. So now we're going to jump into week 13. We kind of jokingly said, like, how long are we even going to go on this show? And then we're at an hour. So and we're not even to the week 13 preview yet.
Well,
But
we don't have a whole lot outside of football, so
yeah,
it'll work well.
so week 13 preview. We'll start with Division 7. Sims Valley 9-2 will go to Hillsdale 10-1. Hillsdale, big time favorite in this game. Last year, state runner up. Ignore that score because that was going to happen against a lot of teams with Marion Local. But um, they've, you know, I know they had a lot of guys coming back, but man, they just threw that, brush that off, and they want to get back to have another chance at them moving forward. But um, Sons Valley 9-2, a lot of underclassmen. Bronx Carpenter, Asher Maynard, Jackson Fields, Mason Waterhouse, Tucker Ross, Andy Stroh, and Levi Russell, all district players. Some big time players for them. A lot of those guys underclass or not underclassmen, but will be back next year. So every week is just going to make them a little bit better.
No question. They can really score it at the higher the level of football. You worry about their ability to stop people,
Yes.
but a lot of that's growth, right? We
Mhm.
talked about that in small school football. A lot of that's just bigger, faster, stronger, get a little older. The experience they're gaining from all of this is so valuable, and hats off to them on what's been an incredible year. I know it's going to be quite a challenge, but um, you're kind of playing with house money at this point, and you're going to grow from it as you move forward.
Yeah, you get 3 extra weeks of practice that maybe you didn't know were coming when you were gonna play so many young guys. And also, they knocked Trimble out. Trimble was a school we didn't talk about in there. I forgot to put them in. Coach Phil Fairs ends his historic career.
Outstanding.
Outstanding,
Yeah,
outstanding career.
outstanding.
I know you coached against them in baseball as well. So
Unbelievable, just human being, just really, really good guy.
yeah, so congratulations to Coach Fairs on an outstanding career over there for Trimble. So then moving on to the next matchup, Danville 7-5 at Waterford 9-2. Wildcats a 12-point favorite in this one. Danville though an outstanding schedule. That's why you get in at
Yeah.
that 12 seed at or maybe the 11th seed at 5-5, and they've been very dominant in their first 2 games. So gonna be tough. But you got Hayden Jones, Avery Potmeyer, Dylan McCutcheon. All of those guys are back next year for them as well. Colby Roberts, Trevin Zimmer, Kason Riley, Weston Fairchild. Some of the standouts for that 9-2 Wildcats team for Coach McCutcheon, an outstanding program at Waterford.
Well, I've had my eye on this Waterford team since one of their losses, actually, against
Yes.
Nelsonville, because Nelsonville's a team we're going to talk on that we're really, really high on. They were my team of the week there back in week 10, and so watching Waterford go toe to toe with them, that told me everything I needed to know about Waterford's capability uh, in uh, in the D6 to make some noise there.
Yes, that's one to keep an eye on. I think Waterford's got an excellent chance to move on to take on most likely Hillsdale, but Sims Valley is not going to go down quietly, and neither will Danville. So there should be 2 games to keep an eye on in Region 27. Now,
Oh, did I say I mean, Waterford 6 or 7?
7.
7. So I said 6. I
Yeah.
apologize. Yeah.
They were 6.
7,
Yeah.
obviously very, very capable of
Yeah.
making some noise.
Yes. So then moving on to Division 5, Region 19. One of the games we're really looking at, Nelsonville-York 11-0 at Columbus Academy 9-2. Um, on Fantastic 50, they are literally one spot away from each other. And because it's at Columbus Academy, it has the Vikings as a 2-point favorite. But this is like a pretty much ultimate toss-up in this game. Michael Chishkoff threw for 247 yards and 3 scores against St. Trace. Gabe Davis-Ray had 4 touchdowns, 2 receiving, 2 rushing. They've got some outstanding skill guys, some good guys up front as well. But everything I've heard is when you get past that top 4 or 5 players, it's kind of a similar team that what you're gonna see across Division 5. They've also got Charles Ruby, Charles Pizzotti, big play receivers. But man, this is a Nelsonville-York team that has been very good throughout the season, pretty dominant. Outside of that Waterford game, been pretty dominant. A 35-0 win over Union Local on Friday night. Kind of, I think, raised some eyebrows on how dominant that game was. Um, Austin got here, 1,340 yards, 7.3 yards a carry, 16 touchdowns on the season. Cam Sullivan's thrown for almost 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions. He also averages 7.6 a rush. Man, they just break off big runs every time when they run it. He's ran for 8 touchdowns. Dakota Cunningham, almost 6 yards a carry, 10 touchdowns. Walker Stone, who we've talked about throughout the year, 14.9 yards of rush, which is ludicrous. And it's also because it's not like he's only ran it like 3 times. He's ran it 14, 15 times. So 19.5 yards a catch, 12 total touchdowns. Then Alec Thompson, 17.2 yards a catch, 9 touchdowns for them. And then we'd be remiss to not mention Caleb Layton, my pick for district defensive player of the year. Uh, did not get it, but 16 sacks, 15 tackles for loss in the season.
Yeah, unbelievable. Nelsonville's been a team I've been real excited for. I'd love the opportunity to call their game this week, and to our TVC listeners, we continue to try to stretch our coverage more and more down that way. And I know sometimes it's difficult to get to certain home
Mhm.
sites and to do different things, but man, I would love the opportunity to call one of their games. I've been really high on this team all year long. They're beating people on average 40-8. Think about that. I
Yeah.
mean, they're just they survived that week 5 over Waterford in the game. They were down 21-7 at halftime. They come back, but a lot of times that you can grow from that. That can kind of focus you. The when you were mentioning their top running back there, I think I looked this week. He carried 183 times. I had put 2 fumbles on the ground, lost one of them.
Mm.
I mean, so you have that run game that'll travel, averaging 7.3 a carry, gets 121 yards per game. He's been in the end zone 16 times as a
Mm.
rusher. So that type of thing seems to travel as the weather starts to
Mm.
turn a little colder. But the one thing that would worry me a little bit is Columbus Academy has played some tighter games. They only
Yeah.
have the +8 margin, and at that 9-2 record, they've had 3 one-possession games. Another 5 have been within 2 possessions. So what that tells you is they probably have been a little bit more comfortable playing in those tighter games into the second
Mm.
half. Could that play a factor? You never know, but that's just something to throw out there.
Well, that's something that, maybe you don't look at necessarily. You just look at the record. You don't look at how they got there. And when you play more close games, if it is tight, you're going to be pretty comfortable late
Yeah.
in those games. And ultimately, that is one of the reasons why this one should be a really
But
good
those
game. Yeah.
Nelsonville kids, I mean, they've done a lot of winning, so
Yeah.
they're not going to shy from the moment. I'll guarantee you that.
Yeah, they want to get to their first regional championship game since 2017, which they did win on their way to a state Final Four appearance in that season. So, moving over to, we're going to stay in Region 19. One that I don't know if people are taking it as serious as they should. Barnesville 9-2 at Wheelersburg 11-0. This Shamrocks team very good. Wheelersburg only a 4-point favorite. The stat that stood out to me isn't really a stat, it's just kind of a fact. The last 3 years, Wheelersburg's knocked the Shamrocks out of the playoffs. So I think maybe some people are looking at it as like, oh, they just knock them out every year. But you've got 3 years of getting knocked out by the same school. You're gonna have, there's gonna be a lot that you can build on if you're Barnesville in that one because um, you know, you don't want to lose to them all 4 years.
Well, Barnesville's always been known as an outstanding football program
Mm.
throughout, our state. Like
Yeah.
when you hear of different programs throughout statewide,
Mhm.
that's one of the names come playoff time. You hear that name a lot. Obviously, Wheelersburg you tops that type of list as well. So you put these two together in a week 13, and you should get exactly what the prediction
Mhm.
says there, which is a really competitive football game. I do like Wheelersburg playing at home. I guarantee you, Wheelersburg's not looking at it that way.
No.
What I mean? They understand the challenge they have ahead of them, but at the same time, playing at home and the year they've had, you talk about battle tested. I mean,
Yeah.
they've gone toe to toe with the best and have 11-0 to show for it. So that should be quite the atmosphere down there in Wheelersburg Friday night.
Yeah, the last time Wheelersburg did not win multiple playoff games was 2019. They won one. They have won multiple playoff games every other year since 2013.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's going to continue, but uh, like you said, they're a program that they're not going to overlook anybody, especially a Barnesville team that they know that they've had to get ready for the last few years. So some familiarity there for them. Ryan Meeker, Ice and Emnett were each district player of the year. Meeker on the as a lineman, Emnett defensively. Uh, Braylon Rucker, 74.4% passing this year, 16 touchdowns. He's also ran for five. Elijah Brown has been dynamic, 7.2 yards a rush, 14 touchdowns. Brady Doss, 16.7 yards a catch, six touchdowns. Then you got Kenny Evans, Xavier Miller, big play guys. Hunter Henderson, Luke Coons, a couple other big time defensive players. I know Henderson had a pick six in that game against Valley that we had him for, and then you've got the huge weapon Cooper Heimbach, long field goal of 53 on the year, multiple field goals over 50 yards, um, and just routinely puts it in for touchbacks or really wherever they want to put the kickoff, wherever they feel most comfortable with.
Well, you just checked on all three phases right there. On the Wheelersburg defense, they've been incredible all year long. Not only do they stop you, oftentimes they get involved in the scoring.
Mhm.
On the offensive side, the thing that jumps out at me is you would think when you pass the ball with that type of efficiency, you must not have the home run capability. Well, no, that's not right either because you're sitting there telling me that you got guys averaging this per catch and so forth. And then in the special teams, you talk about kicking game. I can't think of a team in our coverage area that has a bigger advantage in that area. Can you? I mean, you're the kicking guy. Like, am I right on
Yeah.
that? I mean, he's as good as it gets.
Yeah, he's outstanding, and that's a big reason why if it is close, I like the fact that you gotta get to the 30.
Just like the
Yeah.
Jackson Miami Trace game that we highlighted
Yep.
earlier, 3-point game, 40-yard high school field goal is not your normal Friday night stat.
Yep, and that's one of the things I've really enjoyed seeing the most in the growth. I remember when I first started with you over at SEC Sports Talk, one of the things we talked about was kicking, and it was like we'd highlight kids making 25 yarders.
We're
And
just
it's
on PATs
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah, we're just like,
Yeah,
"Hey, you got the points there,"
yeah,
and now it's kids, I mean, there's at least 4 right off the top of my head that I know of that have hit 40 plus
yeah.
yarders. Heimbach's made a couple of them. And you had Jalen Bender from Valley, Liam Matthey, and then Thatcher Brown. You got all these
Playoff football teams.
playoff football teams that, have elite kickers and that really can make a big difference in the game. Now, one of the things in this, Wheelersburg has given up more than 10 points only twice this season. Once to West was the 49-12 win, and then to Ironton the 24-15 win. Um, and I mean, other than that, they have not given up a whole lot of points throughout the year. Barnesville also has not given up many points, but also Barnesville undefeated against teams from Ohio as they have two losses to West Virginia teams. They are right over by the border, so I mean, it makes sense for them to play some of those teams. Um, but if you want to use like some score comparisons, Union local. They beat them 34-0. Nelsonville beat them 35-0. So I would say this Barnesville team is going to be very good. They beat Portsmouth 34-0 as well. Also, a 35-7 win over Fort Fry to start the season. Fort Fry is out in an outstanding
Yeah.
program that a lot of people in our area should know as well. So that game has the capability of being a really good game down at Ed Miller Stadium on Friday night. Let's jump to Division 4, our next to last game. Unioto 10 or 11-0. I don't know why I put 10-0. Sorry, Coach Hoops. Nelsonville at Nelson or New Lexington 10-1. Panthers are a 12-point favorite in this one. Home game, I would say the two scores seems about right on the favorite when you just look at the overall schedule because of the tough MVL for New Lexington. Their only loss was to a really good Sheridan team in Week 10. But New Lexington, they're a team that I feel like Unioto looks at and it's like, hey, you know what? If we're gonna play a team that's going to line up, play a similar style to us. We like our chances athletically up front. They're going to go in and battle in this game. This one should be a really fun contest. If Unioto can control the clock like they did the other day, I think they're going to have an excellent chance to be in this game in the fourth, and then that's really all you can ask for.
Touched on this in the post game the other night. I talked a lot about Unioto, so let me give a new Lex perspective here. Got to know some new Lex fans there through our volleyball coverage on our 2 days at Logan, and then congratulations to them. They go on to finish state runner-up this past week at Wright State. Talking about this group of kids that are in high school right now on the boys and girls side, you can tell that community really, really enjoys rooting for them. You can tell that they're really good kids,
Mhm.
the types that is a passionate fan base.
Yes.
So I can promise you, um, this Friday night that will be an incredible atmosphere because those are two fan bases that support their kids. But I can't say enough nice things about New
Yeah.
Lex and the passion that they supported that volleyball group with, and then how they talked about these football kids as well. When you talk to some of their
Mhm.
really good sports people, you could tell they had a high IQ, good appreciation for good programs.
Yeah, you don't get the 1 seed in, uh, any region, especially a region with this defending state champion on accident, and this New Lexington team is outstanding. Lane Ratliff, a really good dual threat quarterback for them, throwing for over 1,000 yards, ran for a few hundred, as well, makes a lot of big plays for them. Paul Stinson, 8.1 yards a rush, 24 touchdowns. I would say he's very similar to Cody Braden. Like, if you're just looking at the players, like, kind of player for player, very similar Isaac Coy and Lane Ratliff. Maybe you look at them as mirror because Ratliff, left-handed thrower, where Coy is right-handed. But maybe having the senior experience there, he runs a little bit more than Coy does. But man, Coy has shown that he can do a lot of good things with his legs as well. Then you got Tyson Spencer, who's really dynamic after the catch for them. He would be what I would say would be a Jackson Zickafoos. Maybe now you put Levi Beam in that role, or even you know, Braden Harsha. And a name we didn't even mention the other day was Jack Welch. He,
Welch has had some big catches for
yeah.
them this
So I
year.
mean, they've got several outstanding players in that role as well. Tristan Braden was the offensive lineman of the year in the district. Eli Stevens, Tanner Toth, a couple outstanding players, and Harrison Ratliff, the defensive player of the year in the district as well for New Lexington. So they've got some really nice pieces. As you mentioned, a really passionate fan base should be a really fun atmosphere. But you look at Unioto, Isaac Coy, 18 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Um, Cody Braden was the offensive player of the year in the district, 1,290 yards, 9.3 a carry. He's got 24 touchdowns. David Long, we talked about him a little bit earlier, does a little bit of everything. That defensive line is going to be tested big time in that game. But Jake Brenner, Bryce Jarvis, Daquan James, Luke Howard, you're going to see like Donzel Newland in there a little bit as well. It's a group that they're going to have to play well because of what New Lexington does up front, but there's no reason to think they're not going to play well. 3 seniors, and then you got a really good sophomore in James in there, and then you got Judah Zickafoose. We'll see how much those freshman DBs play. Braden Harshup, Blake Braden, Blake and Langoff, Micah Strange has had a really nice year for them as a DB as well. Cody Braden's going to play some defense. I just think this is going to be a really fun athletic matchup. Now, for Unioto, it's going to be the best team they've played. Maybe not the fastest because the
No
fastest was probably
question.
last
Yeah,
week,
yeah, yeah.
but it's going to be the best team they played in quite some time as well. So if they can adjust early and see, hey, this team's going to be really talented, skill, and really talented up front. They've got to make those quick adjustments um, to how the game's going to be played early. Um, Going to be a really good challenge for them.
I turning on the film, I think New Lex is going to be by far the most complete team they
Yes.
played, and they're going to get challenged a little bit more with the inside run game,
Mm,
setting up some other things. So as you said, their ability, uh, keep an eye on the quarterback, his ability to do some things with the legs too could be a
mm,
real X factor in this matchup. And then with the youth in the secondary, don't be surprised if New Lex puts a little pressure on them to the edges to come up and get involved in the run game a
mm.
little bit because New Lex combines some speed and physicality that again Unioto probably hasn't seen in terms of combination just yet this year. Should be a really good.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the combinations they haven't really seen, and you kind of look back to last week where you thought you were going to see it, and then they went away from it. New Lex isn't going to go away from it, so they're going to go with their game plan, and they're gonna try to run it, and then that's going to set up their pass, and that's where they're so dynamic. So going to be a really good challenge for Unioto, and that new Lexington crowd is going to be big. So that's going to be a challenge for Unioto to bring the same energy crowd wise as well. So it should be a really fun night over in New Lexington. As a couple people have asked me, "Hey, where's New Lexington?" And I've tried my best to answer of, "Well, it's in New Lexington." Um, really not that long of a trip. I looked at it last night, an
It's
hour and a
not.
half. So
People get worked up on the distance sometimes.
yeah.
I had a chance to go over and call a Chillicothe New Lex basketball game last year over there. Beautiful facility.
Mhm.
And like I said, what excites me the most about this game is these are two passionate fan bases. Going back to our opening segment tonight, I don't know that we would be having that segment if you take a look at this crowd on Friday night.
Yeah, it'll be a good one for sure. So um, now moving on to Division 3, Region 12. Got Jackson at 9-2 at London, 11-0. London has given up 14 points since week 4, which came last week. But 67 total points allowed on the season. Red Raiders are a 21-point favorite, but last week they were also a 21-point favorite and needed a late score to beat Archbishop McNicholas. That was gonna be one of the things I was gonna ask, and then I looked at, like, our local teams went 6-1 with the bye. Did it affect some teams negatively? It may have affected London because they were just absolutely rolling going into that game. But, man, this is gonna be a really tough challenge for Jackson. But when you've got Ryan Simons, Cody Wolford, Eli Ray, Gavin Seitz offensively, Jake Allen up front, the lineman of the year in a district with an Adam Guthrie, says all you need to know about how talented Jake Allen is. He's going to Charlotte for a reason. Uh, Jay Sturgill, Jeb Thompson, Charlie Woodard, Dayton Callender, CJ Crabtree, just some of those outstanding defensive players as well. Then you got Thatcher Brown, the outstanding kicker. Jackson's going to go into this game as the heavy underdog, but I wouldn't count out the Ironman.
Well, if you want to talk about identity, London doesn't shy away from who they are. I mean,
Mhm.
they are going to come at you physically, and they are going to just run it in a variety with a variety of backs. They're going to run it in two or three different ways, and they are just going to run it right at you. And I mean, what's ironic about this is listening back to the call-in show throughout the
Mhm.
year. The first half of the year, I know Jackson was kind of upset with their lack of
Yeah.
physicality, I guess is the way he was saying it on the show. And that's something they really went to work on and tried to find themselves. And You talk about the ultimate test to see if you got there
Mm,
because this team is going to line it up and they are going to run it right at you with all kinds of physicality. London always has traveled well in the postseason because they defend and they run it. They defend and they run it.
mm.
And if you can stop that, then you can play with them. If you can't, then you're going to sit there and they're going to simply run it at you 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yards at a time. It's going to be a long evening.
Yeah, and London is the type of team that can make it a very long evening, as you said. They typically, I mean, just looking at their scores once they got into league play, I mean, you have 42 nothing, 47 nothing, 48 nothing, 38 nothing, 37 nothing, 30 nothing.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, like a 38 nothing over a 10-1 Jonathan Alder team that's
Oh, yeah.
playing in the regional semifinals.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Indian Lake, who's still playing and is a favorite this week, they beat them 44-14. Um, they beat Chillicothe team 53-14, who that's a good Chillicothe team.
Yeah.
So I mean, like to me, when I look at this, how good is this new Albany team uh, that didn't make the playoffs that London beats 14-11?
Yeah.
Like that's got to be an outstanding team, and I mean we've seen with how McNicholas did against local teams this year. That was an outstanding team. Um, and this is going to be the biggest challenge of the year for Jackson, who went out and challenged themselves because they played a really good Wheelersburg team, played a really good Ironton team, and then you have to deal with Miami Trace twice, Chillicothe, and just that overall FAC schedule. So they're going to be ready, but man, this is a London team that is just a whole nother level.
Well, they'll match up at the skill positions for sure. I
Mm,
don't doubt that. But I'm telling you, this is going to be a trenches matchup that they have not seen yet. They're going to
mm,
have to go to a whole different level because I've watched London in person a year ago, and then again just following them this year. They're the type of team that they just physically beat you up,
mhm.
and you have to be ready to match that, or you just simply can't play in the game.
Yeah. So looking forward to seeing how that game goes. I think our Brocknider is going to be at that one. I think Derek is going to be at Columbus Academy with Nelsonville. I know we have someone going to Wheelersburg as well. I think Raymond's going to that, and I think Austin's going to that, and I think I'm going to the Unioto New Lexington game. So, best of luck to the teams that well, all of the teams anyway, but the teams that we're not going to see in person this week. Hopefully, you can move on, and we can see you in person next week. So, should be a fun week 13. Some schools haven't ever been there. Some schools haven't been there for a while, so it should be fun and looking forward to seeing how our teams do in week 13 and beyond, because as we mentioned, this will be our last fall season. So do you have anything you want to kind of put a cap on for the fall season?
I I I
In
just think
football
it's a
first.
right. I think a it's a unique time for football because what happens is when you change some formats and you change some different things and you stretch out divisions and you do different things, it allows programs to find themselves in places that they never have before. And that's an exciting time
Yes.
for schools. So what's happened here with some of the buys and some of the different things, we're using the term week 13 more than we ever have.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that we're going to be able to do more and more into the futures. And I don't know if basketball coaches are going to love it,
Right.
but it is gonna be something really exciting for these teams that I mean, we have some really, realistic opportunities for some teams to maybe push into that Final Four level.
Yeah, there's a reason why when we were making our basketball schedule, I don't think any of these teams are on until like mid December at the earliest. So it was like, hey, these teams are probably going to be,
Well, for
you know,
example, Wheelersburg, Nelsonville, they would play each other, right? So if those
yeah,
2 win this week, one of them's in the Final Four.
yeah,
So, I mean, right there's an example of what I'm talking about because I feel very good about both of their matchups this
yeah,
week. Certainly not give me's, but I just feel like they're capable of going and getting it.
yeah. You definitely have some opportunities there. I think Waterford has an excellent opportunity
Yes.
as well. The others are going to be underdogs, but you're in week 13 for a reason,
Yeah.
and give yourself a chance. And should be fun to watch and follow along this
Yep.
week.
Yep.
So good luck to all those schools. We always said it on the Collins show was good luck, or we didn't really say good luck, as in like we hope you win. It was like stay healthy, have a good week of practice, because usually you're playing each other. Then it was like no good luck. Like we were playing the outside,
Yeah.
playing
Yeah.
outside the area. So best of luck to those schools and everyone to stay healthy throughout the week as well. So um, we do have a couple sports we're gonna put a little bow on
Yeah.
real quick. Soccer. Wheelersburg played in a region or not regional, state semifinal game over at Logan. They lose 3-0 to Worthington Christian in the state semifinals. 3 goals in about 3 minutes were was the difference in the match. Worthington Christian nearly scored in the first minute, and then put a lot of pressure on Wheelersburg. Wheelersburg did a really good job of counteracting that, and then just boom, 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 midway through the first half, 3 straight goals for the Warriors, and that was all that it took. The wind was blowing. I mean, after the game, Coach Eastup said 15 to 20 miles an hour. I don't think it was just that. I mean, there's a video of Avon who ended up going on to win the state. They scored like a 45-yard free kick in overtime to move on, and it was 100% just a ball that was being sent in the box, and it just got carried into the goal, and the goalie was completely out of position, and, like, the comments, "He he's not gonna let that down." I'm like, I don't know if he had a chance because the wind was just blowing it so hard. I would say it was 30 to 35 miles an hour wind throughout the night on Wednesday night. Worthington Christian had it to their back in the first half. The second half was much more even once Wheelersburg had the win. Um, they outshot Worthington Christian in the second half, but just were not able to break through. Worthington Christian did an outstanding job defensively, adjusting to the wind, where Wheelersburg really did a good job outside of that 3 minutes.
Well, no question, and congrats to them on a great season. And then, John, I know that wasn't the final thing for soccer in terms of SOSA
Mhm.
because of an incredible event over the weekend. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and then over at Zane Trace on Sunday, uh, the elements weren't great, better than they were on Monday, but,
Yeah.
um, we had believe it was close to it was over 60 athletes were there playing in the SOSA All-Star games between the boys and girls. Um, just a great showing on a day where the weather wasn't great. We appreciate St. Trace, Trevor Thomas and St. Trace for hosting, do an outstanding job there. I think maybe the crowd's going to be a little bigger if it's not 35 degrees and sleeting throughout. We had two officials that we appreciate them showing up. Nate Curley and Chad Beatty did a great job calling the action yesterday as well. So um, just really cool to see kids from all over. I know we had a player from Chesapeake there, players from like Hillsboro, Lynchburg, in that area. We had, I know we had Alexander Athens, as well as uh, some players around Circleville, Fairfield Union,
Yeah.
Wheelersburg. We had them from all over our social coverage area.
Hats off to the SOSA staff too,
Yeah.
because to put something like that on and the communication logistics of getting all of those athletes from that widespread of area, that's really, really cool. That was a great event.
Yeah, so, I think it was mostly Brock. Brock and Derek do a really good job of running those things, and Brock was really, kind of took the charge of it, so, really good work by Brock Nutter on that, and then, as you said, the communication, the families getting those, athletes there as well,
Sure.
just, hopefully next year, a little better weather. If we coulda switched it to Saturday or just switched the weather, Saturday was much better, but,
At least they're not out there today playing or
yes, today would have been a whole lot worse. So, um, yeah, so we appreciate all those kids and families braving the elements to get out to St. Trace. I think it was the seventh annual. I think it's been at St. Trace every year. Just really nice to have a facility where you know you're very welcome, and they just do a nice job of putting on events out there.
yeah, no question. And I think kids enjoy that, families enjoy it, and it it's like anything at SOSA that we do. It's a cool way to promote kids one last time before we put a cap on the year.
Yep, and then just throwing a cap on the boys real quick. The MVP shockingly had 2 goals. It was, Nick Silva. So,
Yeah.
he ends his career 3rd all-time in the state of Ohio,
Uh,
as far as career goals, and then Braden Bird finished 3rd all-time in career shutouts, so an outstanding senior class for that Wheelersburg group.
yeah.
Um, just kinda looking ahead to next year, Menford's gonna be one to really keep an eye on. That Unioto team should be really good as well. On the boys' side, on the girls' side, I mean, Fairfield lost a good bit, but at the same time, Vivian Hittinger is outstanding. McLean's got some really nice players back. Alexander has some really nice players back. Gonna have some really talented players. Miami Trace is another one. Has some really nice girls players back. They looked had some really good participation yesterday as well. That's a further part of our coverage area as well. So looking forward to next fall in soccer, and then just seeing kind of what the Shack does in soccer next year because it's outstanding each year as well. So looking forward to that. And then Shane, I know you wanted to say a little bit of something just for volleyball as well.
Well, the volleyball, we've talked about the kids and the programs throughout the years, and this week into the state tournament, congratulations to like a New Lex, a Bloom Carroll, some of those incredible runs all the way to the state championship game. Um, come up runner up, and it kind of gives you a comparison to some of the teams in terms of just how close some of our area teams are and
Mhm,
playing at the very highest level the state has to offer. But the message this week is just thank you to SOSA, thank you to our fans for proving what I've always known, which is we play really, really high volleyball in this area,
mhm,
and people love volleyball. People are passionate about it. Club volleyball is at an all-time high in terms of growth. And when you get serious about your coverage and you put it out there and you make it all about kids and all about programs, people will tune in. And I think that's been proven this year. I just wanted to give a shout out to everybody involved and a big thank you because I have a great passion for the sport of volleyball and look forward to continuing to see where our coverage can grow.
yeah, and our largest stream that we've ever had in volleyball was this past week. It was Wheelersburg and New Lexington, so uh, just kind of says a lot about our area, but also the area outside. You mentioned New Lexington a couple different times, make it to the state finals. We appreciate any viewership we got from them. Some really good people over there, and an outstanding season for Georgia Burkhart, Chloe Dick, and that group over at New Lexington. And overall, if it is kind of funny when you go back and look through our most viewed games, almost every one of them has one team involved, and it's Adina. So looking forward to seeing their next step post Katie Burns, who was one of the best players in the state, which is why she was a first team All Ohioan. It's just great to go out and watch some of these really talented players be able to play, and then just the continued growth of the sport in our area as well.
Well, you look the next year, you'll see a lot of the programs that you're talking about there just simply reload. And how do you know that? Well, because that's what the last 10, 20, 30,
Mm,
40 years have told you they'll do. But then in terms of, I think it's also fun to see some of the up and coming programs. Obviously, Gallia Academy jumps right out at
mhm.
me in terms of a group that went undefeated this year and has everybody back. And I know they're high on
Well,
some of their incoming levels as well. So it's going to make for some really, really fun volleyball.
yeah, and usually if you say they have everyone coming back, that's like, oh, they might have lost a senior that doesn't do a lot. No, they literally have everyone coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they've got some really high level
Well, it's
players.
like in their last match, I say this is usually the time where I highlight the seniors of the team that lost with Gallia Academy. They don't have one.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
so
So that's a team that jumps out at me, but all of those same players in the game are all going to be right back there because of their ability to reload and so forth. And then, you do have some up and coming teams and I can't wait. I think we'll have some incredible coverage. I don't know. Do you have any numbers there? I think we're up around 20 matches this year, I think.
let me pull it
I
up.
wanted to say there was like 16 or 17 different teams, 20 matches.
It was 21 matches, 17 different streams. Our biggest one just hit over the 3,800 views, or we'll hit that within the next day or so. I mean, that one,
Uh,
um, but for the most part, we had some really good coverage as well throughout football streams. We've done 14 different games, 19 different teams, overall 35 streams, 36 different teams, and 27 different schools
Yeah.
throughout the year. Now, we want to spread that out a little bit more as we can, but once you get in the tournament, and then
Yeah, the
also,
tournament sways those a little bit because
yeah,
you start doubling and tripling up on teams as
yeah.
they make in the tournament. I thought we did a good job this year being able to stretch out a little bit of D4 and then get to the D5. I thought
Mhm.
that worked out well.
Yeah, and then also, um, you gotta be able to do it at places.
Yes,
You gotta be
yes,
on,
that's a big thing, and that's why I say what I was saying about the TVC in terms of just like as you start to stretch your coverage area out, you challenge schools to be able to have that internet access and some of those
mhm,
different things. You're right, that's huge.
yeah, because, I mean, if you looked at some of our coverage and were like, "Oh, man, they're back at that one." Well, yeah, because we can get there. Sometimes we wanna get to places that you see other streams, and sometimes can be jumpy and whatnot. It's because the internet's not as quality as it should be. It's not anything about those people doing the streams. It's just the internet's
Yeah,
not quality for streaming. I mean, I'm sure it's fine for what you need during
yeah,
school because it is two different things. And sometimes schools, I think, don't realize that, and um, that can make a big difference on whether, because we want to do at the quality that we can do it at. We want to make sure it's the best quality as possible to celebrate these teams, coaches, and communities when we're out there. So we want to make sure it's the highest quality as possible.
you and I had a chance to do a game there at the end of our volleyball coverage together. I know we really
Mm,
enjoyed that, but I
yeah.
think it also reminded us just how much Dewey Daly does for us. We
Yes.
want to give a shout out to Dewey. He does an awesome job play by play in our volleyball coverage. I enjoy working with him as I do at Carson in football. But
Mm,
Dewey's willingness on weeknights to drive all over Southern Ohio
mm,
with me and do these different things is why our volleyball coverage is what it is. So shout out to Dewey and
yes.
that.
Yeah, and you can see some really high level volleyball. You can cover some really high level volleyball. You just got to go out and do it.
Yeah.
It's just, if you want to see it, you got to go see it. Like
Yeah.
it's um it's not coming to you. So you got to go out, you know, there's no reason why, you know, now sometimes on weeknights it can be more difficult, but there's no reason why on weekends you can't get out and see some of these really
Yeah.
good teams, really talented teams as well. Because we've got some outstanding programs in the area. Um, and then really because of how good the club coaching is and club volleyball, you're going to see that continue on in the future as well.
It's growing for sure, and it's exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, and then, you mentioned Carson Francis in football, Kenneth Hay also.
Kenneth is outstanding.
Yeah,
Braving the elements the other night.
yeah,
Someone was bragging up on him the other night on that measurement. They're like, it
yeah.
was like CBS. I was like, over here looking at him.
And he had kinda jokingly said, it comes down to if the official is in the way or not, and kudos to the official, he was not standing directly in the way, to where you could see the measurement, at least for the most part of where it was gonna be, so, we appreciate all that help that we get. As always, just go out, and a lot of really good games in the area. A lot of really good and talented people are covering that aren't even working for SOSA right now.
Yeah.
You're seeing a lot of stuff out there on social media. Make sure you share it out. Who you see, because they're working hard to help celebrate these student athletes and coaches along the way. So, credit to anybody that's going out, and to all the sponsors, not just our sponsors. We appreciate you the most, but any sponsors that can help highlight any of these local athletes across Southeast Ohio, because with the newspaper industry kind of going by the wayside for the most part, I know Lancaster has an outstanding writer that gets out and tries to cover as much stuff in our local area as well. It's just it's hard to do right now with how that is. So you're seeing a lot of different things like SOSA pop up. Go out and support them. Make sure that they can stay for as long as like SOSA's been able to do, because it's just going to make the overall coverage of the area even better.
No question.
So. Um, Yeah, so for a couple weeks, let me see, what is it? Today's November 10th. It might be a week. We might be back on the 24th. We'll see. But for at least a week. That's all for Southern Ohio Sports Authority's Overtime, presented by Perfection. For Shayne Combs, I'm John Bruce.